All right guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel. And this is week 2, day 1 of the free 8-week golf strength and power training cycle. If you guys watched the first week, that's where we kind of introduced what the plan is for the 8-week cycle, how the days work, what the movements that we're going to focus on. So make sure to go check out week 1. But we're hopping into week 2 here, starting off with a lower body day. Let's get into it. So you're going to notice a theme in the workouts. The movement patterns are going to be very similar, okay? You have to keep repetition within your cycle in order to get better at the movement, but you can vary the movement slightly. So the box jump might be different, the squat might be different, the hamstring isolated movement might be different, but the movement patterns are still similar. So consistency is the key to success, but also variation is the key to success. So you're going to see a lot of similar movements from last week, but we're just building week to week off of the previous week so we can get stronger, get more powerful, and then get more effective at the movement. So starting with a seated box jump. So last week we did the box step downs, so we learned how to decelerate. Now we're focusing on acceleration. We're focused on moving our bodies fast through space. The seated position gets me in a pre-stretched position in my hips. I'm picking my feet up just a little bit off the ground in order for me to drive into the floor a little bit harder. But that box isn't super tall, but I'm exploding up and getting a nice soft landing. This box is a little bit higher. The reason I like to start with a seated box jump is it takes the variable of loading out of play. So you're having to focus on shooting those hands up, shooting those hips forward off of the box. If you jump up there with your hips back, then you're not going to be able to execute a good box jump. So this is just a building block from the step down into a simple box jump variation. And then the next week we'll build on a little bit more difficult variation of the box jump. Now we're doing the TRX squat jumps. Notice how I'm not bottoming out on the squat. I'm getting a land and I'm quickly re-accelerating up. The TRX straps allow me to hold on and get a little bit less resistance when I jump. All right, this one's a just seated rotational med ball toss, kind of a golf specific movement that I kind of threw in here. Notice how I'm keeping my feet on the floor. So if I did like a Russian twist and I tried to turn my body, my feet would go in the opposite direction, and it's almost like a counterweight, and it's not letting me isolate my core. So this one's letting me isolate my core and then get that explosive rotation into the wall. Just a slight little lean back, so it makes me use my core instead of my hip flexors. Then we're going into squat. This was the same from last week to this week. All right, I'm just doing 3 sets of 12. Throughout the entire cycle, we're going to double up on repetitions for our strength movements. So everything's going to be 12 in the first 2 weeks. The next 2 weeks are going to be 10 reps and so on and so forth. But we're going to kind of dip into the strength phase later on. But this is just, again, like I said at the beginning of the video, just trying to reinforce what I did last week and build on that this week. 12 reps on squat. I'm doing a little bit more weight because my body should have adapted to that stimulus that I put it through last week. I'm still getting past parallel. Knees are going out in a way. If you need a squat kind of breakdown video, I'll put a link in the top of the video here. But going to or close to failure, driving it up, racking it up. Now I'm contrasting my squat, my quad dominant, my glute dominant movement with a hamstring dominant movement. I'm doing an RDL with 2 dumbbells, all right, hinging at the hips, keeping that back nice and flat. And I like to keep my knees slightly bent. I don't like to do a straight-legged deadlift. That just feels weird on my knees. I like to keep a slight bend just so I can get a little bit more range of motion in my hips. Neck stays in line with my back. I'm not leaning forward and then poking my neck out here. Neck stays in line with my shoulders, and that goes down to the floor as I hinge my hips. And then I've got a banded hip flexor. All right, we did the single leg hip flexor last week where I had the band attached behind me. This is a little bit easier variation, but you can add a little bit more resistance. Notice how I'm bringing my knee up to hip height. I'm keeping that toe dorsiflexed, and my chest isn't collapsing. All right, I want to bring my knee up. I don't want to bring my chest down. Really trying to isolate that hip flexor. So now we're going into the second strength circuit, starting off with some seated leg extensions. All right, trying to target the quad. I've got some knee tracking issues in my quads, so I'm really trying to strengthen the VMO there. Nice, good posture, full extension on the leg extensions. I'm doing 3 sets of 12 on those. It's a good one to add on with the squats. Then I'm doing a banded hamstring curl, a little bit lighter variation of a hamstring curl just with this band. I already did a big hamstring movement with the RDLs, so I don't have to go as big with my second hamstring movement, but the foam roller is elevating my knees and my legs so I can get more range of motion when I extend my legs in the back. And you can hook this band up anywhere you can, and then I'm just going full range of motion, big contraction in the hamstrings. And then this last one is a one that's gonna be great for all golfers. This is gonna be a side plank banded clamshell. I've got the band around my knees. That bottom knee is staying on the ground. So hips come up and I'm opening that top leg and working on abduction of the knees and abduction of the hips, really firing those glutes in the back there. And I feel it a little bit more on that stabilizing leg on the bottom rather than the top leg. But every golfer should be doing these at least once a week, because when I rotate in the backswing, I'm loading that right hip if you're a right-handed golfer, and then I load into that left hip, and then I rotate and explode. And so if my glutes can't be strong and I can't have stabilization in the hips, I'm not gonna have a good golf swing. And that's it for the video. This is week 2, day 1. Hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for the rest of the week 2 program. And I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.